Hey, we'll call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to those that are attending here in person and those that are attending virtually from home. All are welcome here for sure. And I'll ask everyone if they could please ensure that their cell phones are turned off or on mute, please. And I'll ask everyone to rise for O Canada. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated, and we will proceed with our land acknowledgement at this point in time. As we gather, we are reminded that the municipality of South Huron is situated on Treaty 29 land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. As a community, we have a responsibility to honor and respect this territory's significance for the Indigenous peoples who lived and continue to live upon it, and whose practices and spiritualities were tied to the land and continue to develop in relationship to the territory and its other inhabitants today. In the spirit of reconciliation and truth, we acknowledge the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee peoples on whose traditional territory we are meeting. Thank you, everyone, and we'll move on to item number 2. Ms. Masuo Collison, please.
That South Huron Council approves the agenda as presented.
As a mover, please. Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Members of council. Councillor Neep, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Finch. Item 5.1. Reason being, I'm an employee of the Alvin-Maitland District School Board as a teacher, so I'll step out during that delegation.
Yeah, thank you for that. Any other disclosures at this time? Okay, not seeing any. We'll move on to our presentations. We have none, and we'll go to our delegations under 5.1. Mr. Neep, thank you. And we welcome Dr. Lisa Walsh and Mr. Robert Hunking. Welcome. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having us tonight. We're glad to be here.
Yeah, and please proceed whenever you're ready. You have about 10 minutes, just so you know, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if you have the slides. Do you?
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Okay. And are you able to share them there?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So then we will begin. And Robert, are you able to start?
I am here, but I can't get my camera on.
Well, why don't you just go ahead and speak to the slides? They're up on the screen since we have 10 minutes.
Okay, I apologize. I am having terrible camera issues tonight. So I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Robert Hunking. I'm the trustee for Blue Water South Huron. But I previously, the last 12 years, I've been the trustee for Central Huron, Huron East. So I was not as though I am a new trustee, but I'm new for your area. So,
I'm Lisa Walsh. I'm the Director of Education for the Avon-Maitland District School Board. Your camera was just on.
It was. Oh, I apologize. We'll go to slide 2. Our outline for tonight is give you some idea about information about our district, our strategic plan, our areas of focus, equity and inclusion, mental health and well-being, literacy and numeracy, pathways to success, and international education, And looking ahead. So you can see we have just over 15,000 students in our district, 10,500 in elementary and just under 5,000 in secondary, including international students, 31 elementary schools, 8 secondary schools, 6 of them are 7 to 12, 2 of them are grades 9 to 12. We have 1 e-learning school, which is online, which is AMDEC, 7 centers for employment and learning, which means we have approximately 2,700 full-time or part-time staff. And we've just recently introduced what we call our data dashboard. And you'll see the link there on the slide. It includes enrollment projections for all the schools within our district, the size of the school, the structure, and the locations of them. So if you ever want to know what's happening in Stevens Central or Blue Water Coast, or even Exeter Elementary, you can go on that site and it'll tell you what the current enrollment is, the previous enrollment over the last 10 years, and projected enrollment for the next 10 years. So if it's there for information for anybody who wants to see what's happening. And we do a lot of work with Watson Associates for the demographics. So we know where growth areas are and declining areas are. And lately we've become a growth area, which is very good for us. Next slide is a strategic plan.
I think I can add here. So
Go ahead. It's to prepare students for the next step and prepare for a changing world. And you see our 3 main pillars are I am well, I'm prepared, and I am engaged. And all this leads to what we want to be known for is a successful graduate. And you might wonder what a successful graduate is. At Avon District School Board, our goal is to foster successful graduates. And we define successful graduates as students who leave Avon District School Board prepared for the next step and understand themselves as learners and advocates for their own needs, are literate and are numerate, and they are also prepared for a changing world. Confident and curious thinkers, resilient and flexible thinkers who demonstrate global competencies, communication, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and problem solving, and positive and principled engagement in society. And this is where Lisa takes over.
Okay, thank you. So we just wanted to, our purpose of sharing with you tonight is, and we're really conscious of the time, and we wanted to just bring to you some of the work that we're doing that relates to you. There's lots of things going on in the board. It's been a year of really I guess getting everything back into order after the pandemic. We're really trying to stabilize our communities. We have had a lot of dysregulation amongst students and some staff, and it's been overall a good year, but a bit of a challenging year. But there is a need for a comprehensive whole community approach. And so next slide, please. We just wanted to dive into some areas of focus and progress. And the next slide, we're really focusing on grounding all of our work in equity and inclusion. We know that equity is about recognizing what each individual needs and helping them to be successful, to achieve, and to feel a strong sense of belonging and wellness in our system. And so we have an equity action plan, as you can see on the screen there. We're moving to some more very concrete actions. If you go to the next slide, please. Some of the things that we have done in this past year is we did a workforce and student census gathering, and we have identified that we have a lot of students who identify as Indigenous, from other races other than white, and that they also have shared in our census data and our climate survey data, which we just collected from students, that some students are really struggling with that sense of belonging. De-streaming is some of the underlying work in equity and inclusion. De-streaming is everybody taking the same program and not the streaming into from academic courses to applied, locally developed and academic 9 and 10. We're moving more to, and this is a provincial initiative, to all students taking English, all students taking math together in one classroom. And so that is a way to make sure that we see students, that we don't early stream them into what we think should be their pathway. And that work's still undergoing. We're tracking our incidents. We have an anonymous online reporting tool where students can report bullying or issues of hate-based incidents. And we're also sharing those on a weekly basis with senior staff so we can address the issues that are happening in our district. And other initiatives that are undertaken in all of our schools, we are flying the pride flag in June. We do land acknowledgements before all of our meetings, and training and community partnership work. So I guess some of the work here is we're wondering how our community partners can help us and how we can help you. We would be willing to do training for land acknowledgements, partner with you on the Huron County Immigration Partnership. We're ultimately trying to create healthy, welcoming, well-adjusted citizens, which is part of our image of our successful graduate. And we're also wondering, where we can find allyship and collaboration with you around our encouraging Indigenous learners, creating safe and welcoming environment, and also building our communities so that we can have racialized representation in our schools that represent the students that are coming into our system as well. Next slide, please. Another key focus is mental health and well-being. You can see on the slide there that Avon-Maitland, we do have a mental health well-being team that consists of regulated health professionals who provide mental health counseling in our schools. They all have heavy caseloads, and they work in partnership with Choices for Change, Rural Response for Healthy Children. And we also have the School Mental Health Ontario, which guides our strategy. And this is, we just did a mini series for parents and community members on a number of different well-being topics that can serve parents to help their children at home. And we're constantly building tools to help us and resources to help in the system in this area to train our own staff. Next slide, please. Literacy and numeracy is our core business, and it's something that we're always working on. So we're trying to reduce gaps in reading and writing that occurred during the pandemic. We know that we still believe that students do best learning face-to-face with their peers and their teacher. And we are required to have an online learning school. It's quite small for next year. We're partnering with a few other boards to run an online option for families, but we're really first promoting that parents send their children back to school to learn alongside their friends. And we are getting back into professional development, which is exciting because we haven't been able to pull out staff at all to learn together for quite a while. There are some new approaches to teaching young students how to read, and this is exciting because across our district, all primary teachers have been trained from kindergarten to grade 3 in this strategy. It's Haggerty Math. It's based on phonemic awareness. And so there's a consistent way of teaching reading and to students across the district. We have new math curriculum for grade 9, which is based on financial literacy. And we are continuing to build our in-class support for our educators. And I think we have about just a few minutes left, and we have quite a few slides left. So I will just, maybe we can just say a few high-level points here to our last few slides. Robert?
Okay, the pathways to success. We've always talked that, unfortunately, college and university are the way to go. But now you see the shortage of skilled laborers. So almost the past decade, we've had co-op classes, dual credits with Fanshawe, Lambton, and Conestoga, where you can get both a high school and a college credit at the same time. Ontario Youth Apprentices, special high skills major, experiential learning. So we have opening up the pathways to all students, whether they want to go post-secondary, whether they want to go apprentice or co-op or directly into the workforce. Next slide, please. And you can maybe see that South Huron, what I was just talking about, 29% go to university, 61% go to college, only 8.8% go to directly to the workplace. Special high school major, it's where you can get certificates and a lot of, beyond just your credit, you get certificates, whether it's WIMIS, working from heights, whatever. And South Huron, they have transportation, health and wellness, and business.
So just a few last things. We are really trying to keep kids in school because we know that gives them more options in life. So these are a number of strategies here on the screen of how we are trying to maintain students all the way for the 14-year journey from junior kindergarten through to grade 12. And you can go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, international student education. It's a benefit for both our students. They get to see different cultures, and it's an opportunity for other students from other countries to come and see Canada, Ontario, and Huron County. So in future, they might wish to move here. They might want to go post-secondary in Ontario. So it's an interesting initiative that has benefits for everybody involved in it.
Yeah, next slide, please. And so this last piece of information here, we do, you can read this at your leisure, but we have a newly created position. We have a research manager, and we're really working on monitoring and measuring and tracking our progress in our board. And you can see some of the ways we're doing that through our data collection, climate survey, and we also have a survey going out to parents and guardians this fall to collect their information about how our education system is doing. Next slide, please.
And it's looking ahead, and as we've talked somewhat through this whole presentation, we want to see where our work and your work align so that we can possibly work together for recruitment of people to come to Huron County or South Huron to work and to live. And their equity, how do we create an equitable society where people feel welcome? Growing enrollment areas, what infrastructures are needed, supports for new community members. Lots of work is happening between our board, Watson Associates, and your planners to see where areas of growth are so we can start planning, okay, do we need additions to schools or possibly even a new school? And mental health and well-being, where can we align our resources or even jointly advocate for more resources? So if you have any questions or concerns, we are welcome to hear them. I know this was a delegation, but we're wanting to work together with you. So,
Okay, thanks very much, folks. That was really, really well done. Any questions from members of council? Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And thank you for the presentation. Just a couple things that stood out for me in the slides. First off, the pathways to success and the numbers at South Huron, and just wondering what your thoughts are on that. We're heavily weighted one way or the other versus some of the other schools, and just wondering what your thoughts are on that, those percentages.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're trying to do there is we want to give kids more options. I think de-streaming is going to be very helpful that way because kids will all be together for grade 9 and grade 10 as this gets going in the province and gets rolled out. So currently de-streaming takes place in grade 9 and it's slowly moving into grade 10. next year will still be a streamed year in grade 10, but the goal is a new curriculum is coming from the ministry, and we'll be training staff, and then it will be moving into de-streamed grade 10 as well. And I think that might have impact on these numbers eventually, because we want students to, going to university, college obviously is skill-based, and university is thinking and ideology and further development of those areas. And so what we would like students to do is have the option to choose after grade 10, as opposed to when they come in grade 8 and they're quickly, what happened in the past was they went into a stream and that limited their progress. So right now it's interesting to look at these results across our board to see where we are, pushing potentially. And it also comes back down to what's offered in the high school. So one of the projects we're doing this summer is looking at what every single high school in our district offers. And then we're going to compare, because obviously students are taking what is offered as well, and that leads them in particular pathway directions. So more to come on that, but that's sort of the insights we have from this data and some of the direction that we're fleshing out, I guess, what these numbers really mean.
Great, thank you very much, Doctor. Any other comments from members of council? Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yes, I had a question about, I think in the presentation, it said in grade 9 in maths, you were looking at emphasis on financial literacy. And so I just wondered what you mean by financial literacy for grade 9.
It's a great question. There was a new curriculum that came out, and there's, it explores the area of how do you actually create a budget? How do you live within that budget? What do things actually cost in society? How do students, what is good money management? What does that look like? It's basically life skills in terms of using math in practical ways in a real world. What is a mortgage? How do you actually figure out what interest is? All of those kinds of things. What do taxes look like? It's really practical in nature.
Can I add something there? It's not as though taking out all the other math and just doing financial literacy. Financial literacy has become part of the curriculum.
Okay. Oh, no, that's good. I was hoping it would mean something like that. So that's good to hear. I just wanted to go back to the de-streaming for a second. And I'm actually very happy to hear that young people are not being asked around the grade 8 level to pick what stream they want. I thought at the time when that came in, it was a little early to be asking questions like that. But so now we're looking at de-streaming and having those choices come later in their high school career. And so just for clarity, when was that later? What did you say that was after grade 10, or is it 11 or 12, or what is it?
Well, currently it's after grade 9. So they have grade 9, which is fully de-streamed now in the province. So kids all do grade 9. Basically, they have a few options of interest courses, but the core subjects, the mandatory credits, I should say, literacy, numeracy, geography, French, etc., are all done together in grade 9. And then what the province is doing is moving that also into grade 10. So we're actually preparing for the grade 10 de-streaming now, but this next group of grade 10s will be, they've picked their courses for September. They will be an academic applied, or we don't have too many locally developed. That goes right to the workforce. Most of our kids are in applied or academic for grade 10 this coming year. And then so in the 2024-25 school year, we will have full de-streaming in grade 9 and grade 10.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'm happy to hear that. I know I'm only a party of one, but I particularly am happy to hear that. And just one other question specific to South Huron. One of the major skills was transportation. And I'm just not too sure what's covered under the word transportation, because we seem to be, there's only one other school that seems to be focusing on the skill of transportation.
Robert, do you want to answer that?
I will try it and you'll have to,
Sure, I'll ask.
it comes down to taking technical and mechanical, but it also is getting, you better take this one, Lisa. I'm stuck for words right now.
No, it's good. It's also small, running a small business. All of those sorts of skills that would be required if you went into the transportation area. It could be driving a big wheel truck and fixing that, or it could also be fixing trucks. It could also be about transportation industry. So it's wide and it depends on the teachers also teaching it and how they craft the specific curriculum, but that's kind of the general nature of it. And the reason that that South Huron has transportation, health and wellness and business is that actually comes from students themselves and what they're interested in. So the principals actually tell us what types of courses the kids are interested in taking, because in December, they roll out a big calendar and say, here's all the types of courses you could take. Students start to select. We see that there's patterns in particular schools. And then we can apply to the ministry for particular specialist high skills majors, which are concentrated courses in high interest areas. And the benefit of it is that students get a certificate that they have taken a concentration of courses in a particular area. And a lot of kids actually follow up then in a college stream or an academic stream with those interests.
Okay, thank you for that.
Any other questions? Councillor Dietrich, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks again for the presentation. Does the Avon board, they're just strictly with the elementary and secondary schools? You're not involved with college or university?
No, we're not, but we have, well, we are in some ways. We don't run any colleges or universities, but what we do have is a partnership with 3 different colleges, Fanshawe, Conestoga, and what's the other one, Robert?
Lambton.
Thank you, Lambton. And what happens is they offer something called a dual credit. So the students actually get a high school credit and a college credit at the same time. The way that runs right now is we would like to see it changed a little bit, because the colleges determine what they're going to offer, and then students can select from their offerings, as opposed to our students saying we have an interest in this, and then we say to the college we would like a dual credit in this area. So we're working on how that might continue to develop in the future, but that's the current way that works. With universities, we do have things like evenings where parents can come out and hear about different universities and colleges. That's done in all of our high schools. And we also have some university partnerships where we have teachers college candidates from different universities we have working in our schools. It actually brings new grads into the district to also work with us and also promote back those universities to students.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions, comments at all? Okay, and yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Walsh and Mr. Junging. Great presentation. And I'm in the school here, the Exeter South Huron High School, so very often, but about every 2 weeks I'm in there for something. And you got a great team there, I can tell you that much. So very interactive. The kids all seem to work well with the teachers. So we're very fortunate, and thank you for your leadership and in your roles.
Thank you all so much. And we're very glad to be here to present to you tonight. And if you do have anything that you'd like to follow up on and connections that you see that we aren't currently making that we could make in the future between the municipality and the school board, we'd be really open to hearing about those connections as well. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. Sue Carlson.
Okay. The South Huron Council receives a delegation from the Avon Maitland District School Board, updating the municipality as presented by Dr. Lisa Walsh and trustee Robert Hunking.
And a mover, please. Moved by Councillor Oaks, seconded by Councillor Denemy. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that carries with 6. Mr. Dietrich, would you go get Mr. Need, please? Nope. Never mind. What it? Very good. Okay, and thank you very much, Mr. Deeb. Moving on to 5.2, we welcome Dawn Allen and Meg Frame. Are you there?
Hi, hello. Thank
Welcome.
for
How are you?
having us.
How are you
Doing
folks?
well. Doing well. Thank you. Thank you
Good.
for having us.
Excellent. Yeah, no, feel free to begin when you're ready, and you have about 10 minutes, but go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Our delegation would like to reintegrate the reasons for our request to fly the pride flag in every municipality in Huron County. It is important. It encourages diversity, growth of community, safe spaces, and especially equality. Part of this movement in Huron County starts with our first ever Pride Festival that Goderich is hosting on Saturday, June the 10th from 9 to 5. The festival will have something for everyone, including families, allies, and the entire queer community. You can come to be informed, entertained, and engaged. So it's not just drag queens and rainbows, it's about community engagement and education. For example, we are hosting a professional health panel that are here to answer any pressing questions from allies and queers alike. We will also have educational pamphlets that we'll be handing out as well. We are also elevating and giving space to queer talent. We have an artisan market showcasing artists that are both queer and allies alike. And we're really, we're happy to be represented, and part of that is to host the flag. So that's the conclusion there. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for your presentation. Well done. Any comments from members of council? Councilor Neeb, go ahead, please.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Finch, and thank you very much for your delegation this evening and talking about the Pride Festival as well. I think all of us around the council table know the importance of having an inclusive and accepting community. Our community safety and well-being plan includes improving safety and well-being for those in the 2SL LGBTQ+ community, as well as other members of other marginalized communities as well. And I think it's important that all in our community feel safe and valued. And I know that the municipality has launched a campaign to raise awareness and celebrate inclusivity and diversity in South Huron, including a page on our website recognizing our diversity. And I'm just maybe wondering if staff or the acting CAO can maybe outline a little bit of what's on that page.
Ms. Masula Collison, would you be able to provide some information?
I can add a little bit to that. Recognizing our diversity campaign. It's a communication strategy and campaign to promote and celebrate inclusivity and diversity. This campaign is guided, as Councillor Neeb mentioned, by the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan and started June 1st. The intent of this plan is to foster a safer, more inclusive community for all. The webpage itself is an opportunity for the community to let us know what is important to recognize. And it's ever evolving, and there have already been additional days of significance and remembrance added by community members since the initial launch of the website. As part of the campaign, there's also been some social media posts and the website homepage slider and messaging is to be placed in the hub as well.
Great, thank you. Mr. Neeb, anything further? No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm usually at after delegations, we follow up at a subsequent meeting and have a fulsome discussion. And I'm looking forward to having the discussion with council about the flag.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of council? Yeah, thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Councillor Oak, did you have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, just want to thank the both for the presentation tonight and look forward to further discussions. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much. And again, it's always an evolving discussion for sure. And we take the information from the public and we see what we can do with it and continue to move forward progressively. So thank you again very much for attending tonight. We really appreciate the input and we look forward to talking to you further.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Masula Collison.
That South Huron Council receives a delegation from Huron County Pride as presented by Don Allen, Vice Chair, and Meg Frayne, Media Coordinator and Family Pride.
And do we have a mover, please? Moved by Counselor Neeb, seconded by Counselor Oak. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor, and that carries with 7. Thank you. Okay, moving right along to 7, no public meeting under 6, so we'll go to 7.1. Ms. Masulo Carlson.
That South Huron Council adopts the minutes of the orientation meeting of May 8th, 2023, and regular council meeting of May 15th, 2023, as printed and circulated.
And is there a mover, please? Counselor Denby, seconded by Counselor Dietrich. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor, and that carries with 7. Thank you. 8, Ms. Masulo Carlson.
That the minutes, reports, or agendas of the following committees and or boards be received as presented to council. The Sable Bayfield Conservation Authority, draft minutes of April 13th, 2023. Exeter Rodeo Committee, minutes of April 19th, 2023, and May 10th, 2023. The Upper Thames River Conservation Authority, draft minutes of April 25th, 2023. The Court of Revision, minutes of May 15th, 2023. Blue Water Recycling Association, board meeting notes of May 18th, 2023. And Dashwood Community Advisory Committee, draft meeting minutes of May 18th, 2023.
And a mover, please. Moved by Counselor Neeb, second by Counselor Vaughn. Any discussion? Counselor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yes, I just wanted to take this opportunity to say a few things about the Dashwood Community Advisory Committee. We did meet a couple of weeks ago, Jeremy and myself and the members of the actual committee. We were discussing for a big portion of that meeting, playground equipment, and the very fact that the playground equipment in the Dashwood Park is past its prime. Okay, it's over 20 years old and it's looking kind of tired. It's time to replace it. So obviously 20 years ago, playground equipment had a totally different price tag on it than it does today. So we had a bit of a sticker shock throughout the committee in terms of what it might cost. But we also did indicate to the committee that we have about $60,000 put aside in budget between 50% of Blue Water and 50% of South Huron. But while that sounds like a substantial amount for playground equipment, it might not be enough because there is another requirement as well, which is accessibility to get over to the playground itself. Currently, where the playground is situated is you have to actually cross a small stream, and the bridge there is not an accessible item. So it's quite possible that that amongst our staff and with Jeremy's assistance, we'll be talking a little bit about what are accessibility options. It might be something like a concrete culvert that you can actually drive over a piece of grass cutting equipment, and we can also get wheelchairs sort of across a more accessible kind of way. We haven't landed on that, but that adds another price tag beyond just replacing playground sets. So there's a couple of things that were talked about in terms of fundraising. The Dashwood Men's Club may be looking at giving us some funds for some of the fundraising. They also wanted us, both municipalities, to take a little look at are there any potential grants for any of this stuff that we might be able to take advantage of. And what else here? Oh yeah, we just might need to approach our friends in the other Dashwood community or committee, which is about the hydro fund. to see if there are potentially some dollars from that fund that could go towards this purpose in the community. Interestingly enough, that we have that committee, but we don't actually have terms of reference for it, nor do we have committee members. So I've spoken with the CAO on that, and we're going to be looking for some recruitment to try to get that on side. Any monies we might be able, once a committee is struck and they're brought up to snuff, would also we be looking at Blue Water 50% kicking in, because they have some hydro money as well. So there's a bit of work to be done around how to gather the funds, how to figure out what funds are actually going to be required. So there is a motion in here from the committee that is basically just asking us to consider those hydro funds, but there's a lot that needs to be done before we're in a position to actually consider that. That hydro fund situation is also compounded slightly. You may have noticed certain communications coming out from the staff that are saying, with the work that we're going to be doing in Dashwood itself, we're going to be putting in new hydro poles, because we're moving the hydro poles from the parking / boulevard area onto basically people's lawns to get them quite away from the traffic and the parking. And the new poles may have the capability to handle Christmas decorations, but the Christmas decorations that we have today are not compatible with that new technology. So yeah, so there might be a requirement for funds from the Hydro Committee to actually look at Christmas decorations too. So lots going on. Just thought I'd give you a little bit of a prelim beyond the written word, so you understand where we're going in Dashwood.
Perfect. And just for the record, Chief Becker is off to a structure fire, so he's not here to provide any input. Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
I am done. If I was going to
Oh, sorry, go
ask,
ahead. Yeah,
I was going to ask the chief to step in and say anything, but if he's off,
he's off.
he's off.
He's off.
Okay, so I'm done.
Good.
Questions?
Thank you, Mayor. I note that Blue Water has got a Trillium grant for a Hensel playground that they, and I think the price tag came in at 112,000, I believe, and they had $100,000 Trillium grant for that at the time. And then we've accessed a Trillium grant recently for the Stephen Arena, and so just wondering how often you can apply for a Trillium grant. Obviously there's other grants out there, but just wondering on that front. My second question is the report said Blue Water was doing a building condition assessment. Is that scheduled for 2023 that they're doing that?
Ms. Masuo Carlson, do you want to respond?
Through the mayor, yes, they are scheduled for this year to do the building condition assessment for the Dashwood Community Center, and then they will be sharing the results of that as well. As far as Trillium, we can always apply again. Once we have one, they do like to have it spread around.
Okay, any other questions? Follow up at all? You're not seeing any. We have a mover and a seconder. If there's no further discussion, call the question. All in favor. And that carries a 7. Thank you. Item number 9, Ms. Masuo Carlson.
The South Huron Council receives a report from Don Giverson, General Manager of Infrastructure and Development, request for proposals for Connecting Link Project Engineering Services. And that South Huron Council accepts the proposal received from BM Ross and Associates and authorizes the award of a professional services contract to BM Ross and Associates for the design, approvals, tendering, contract administration, and construction inspection for Main Street North reconstruction project, Sable River to Walper Street, in the amount of $131,960 plus HST.
And a mover, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Councillor Oak, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Don, for the report. Just a question. We had 293,000 in the budget for the engineering and it's come in at 131. Is that how I'm reading that?
Mr. Giberson?
Through you, Mayor Finch, that is correct. But the budget for the almost 300,000 includes other items such as we've budgeted about 70,000 for geotechnical services. So there are more costs than just for the engineering services.
Thank you for the clarification. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Giberson? Okay, not seeing any. We have a mover and a second. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that carries a 7. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Giberson. Moving right along. 9.4, Ms. Sue Carlson.
The South Huron Council receives a report from Alex Wolf, Deputy Clerk, re-C drain of the POF Municipal Drain 2023 tender. And the South Huron Council award the tender for the construction of the C drain of the POF Municipal Drain 2023 to AG Hayter Contracting Limited for a tendered price of $90,705 plus non-recoverable HST.
And a mover, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Denemy. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries a 7. Thank you. Any items of notice of motion? Are you aware of Ms. Sue Carlson?
There are none.
Items for discussion arising from previous meeting, number 11. Anything to be pulled or discussed? Councillor Neeb, go ahead.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Finch. Just with the local immigration partnership, I think it's great that we have them in our community. It's got a number of newcomers to South Huron, and I think it's important that they're able to provide assistance to recent newcomers. One of the asks in the delegation was for space for 1 day a week, and I was just wondering if we were able to accommodate this, or whether there needs to be a report, or if there's any updates.
Ms. Sue Carlson?
Staff are working with Mark, Mr. Nonkis. They do have a spot starting in July. Unfortunately, June, it's not available. So we're working with them to find a spot for the June. Okay.
Great, thank you. Any other comments from anyone? Okay, Councillor Oak, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Mayor. On the ABCA delegation, the cost sharing agreement, what are our next steps on that? It's a 5-year term, the way I read it, and which would the Schedule A talks about the budget requirement, or the budget amount that's in 2023, and then is that budget automatically set each year, or do we have some input into that budget each year?
Ms. Sue Carlson?
The chair, the way that it was explained to us was that each year they'll come back and provide us the numbers. It will depend on how many municipalities necessarily are signing on to the full. I do know that Huron East, and as well as Lambton Shores and Lucan Biddulph are considering the cost share agreement that was provided to them. So that would be the next step. If there are any questions or any more information that council would like us to be brought back, otherwise we can bring the agreement forward for consideration.
Mr. Oak?
So yeah, it raises a good question. If some of the other municipalities don't sign on to this and do it as a fee for service or whatever, what does that mean to South Huron as if we agree to this agreement? Because they'll have people hired to do some of these core services, or these other services that are part of this agreement. So just wondering how that affects South Huron.
Ms. Sue Carlson? Go ahead, Ms. Councillor Vaughn.
Maybe I can jump in here at this. Okay, so the first question that you asked, Councillor Oak, was about budget for next year, 2024. And I would suspect that our process won't change materially at the ABCA. The directors of the ABCA will be presented with a budget from all different departments, and basically at the time, staff will be justifying why it is they want to do whatever special projects or whatever programs they've done in the past, like say educational programs that they would like to continue going forward. I don't expect big changes to be coming in any of those non-core in terms of anything much beyond a cost of living. So anything, 5% and under, let's say, if cost of living actually turns out to be that. So I don't expect big change financially on what it is that's being proposed for non-core. However, we're all sort of at the ABCA asking the same question. What are we going to do if certain municipalities decide they don't want to participate in the non-core? And I don't think we've got an answer for that right now, to be perfectly honest. Right now, we're letting everybody sort of talk about, is it reasonable for us? And maybe even think about in terms of, are they taking advantage of what is actually being offered? Because that's another side. You don't know if that's going to change people's thinking in terms of, let's stick with education. We really, as a municipality, say in North Middlesex, haven't really capitalized on any of this education. And rather than say we're not participating, maybe we should be looking at how do we participate more, or how do we get our value for it. It's a transitional year. So the only thing I can really say to council at this point is, let's try to play this month by month. I'm going to be hearing what's happening on the ABCA board as we go through the summer and into the fall about receptibility from all of the member municipalities in the ABCA. And I can commit to coming back to council and continue to give you where we're at kind of report.
Okay, Councillor Oak.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just didn't know the timeline per se, because my concern is if a couple of municipalities decide to change course, and all of a sudden our costs go up 10% to cover or whatever. What are our options at that time if we've agreed to this? So that would be the risks that I see at this point in time until we know if everybody's on board.
Councillor Vaughn.
Yeah, and that is, thank you for that, Councillor Oak. That is a very real risk that could happen. And it could mean that it's going to be an interesting 2023 year, because we would be going back to other municipalities and saying, okay, so we know you signed an MOU and it looked like this in June. But now, because we've had 3 municipalities back out, it's going to look like this. The sort of good news is that South Huron and Bluewater and Lambton Shores are the biggest contributors. And certainly indications I've had so far is nobody's really looking from those municipalities to back away from an MOU, but it's not signed yet. So.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Ms. Masood Paulson, do you have a comment? Oh, sorry, Councillor, go ahead.
And those, if that does happen, the potential and costs is only for those non-core activities, right? Which is not as great in cost as the core activities of the ABCA. Is that correct?
This MOU only relates to the non-core. So just that specific 4 different categories, of which education is only one of those 4. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Sewell Collins, do you have a comment?
I know that they were looking to have it looked at July, August to set their budget schedule. So it's something that we can hold off, and I can contact Brian Mr. Horner and see where they're at with the other municipalities prior to bringing it back to council.
Very good. Okay, no motions have come out of that under 11, so we'll move on to 12, new business. Any new business at this time? Ms. Sue Carlson, are you aware of any?
I haven't been given any.
Nor have I. Okay, thank you. Mayor and councillor comments and announcements. Members of council, any announcements or comments? Councillor Vaughn, go ahead.
Sorry. Got sick of me tonight. Okay, so I just thought I'd give you a little bit of an update on FCM. Mayor Finch and I were delegates at the FCM convention. The theme for the 2023 year was local action and national results. I can tell you that 3 resolutions received a bit of attention in the greater group of all of the delegates. The first one was on establishing an urgent intergovernmental platform on mental health. These resolutions are brought to the FCM delegates on a regular basis annually to talk about what we're going to, from an FCM perspective, pursue with our counterparts from a staff perspective with the federal government. So basically on the mental health, the resolution was calling on the federal government to acknowledge mental health as a national emergency, to commit to tri-party policy discussions aimed at mental health as an integral part of Canada's healthcare system, and developing a comprehensive national mental health strategy. So that was the first resolution. It passed with huge in favor, well over 95%. The second, urgent action needed to address the crises of homelessness. Everybody all the way across the country that we certainly spoke to has their own story on the crisis of homelessness, and certainly bigger cities are impacted with it much more than rural communities, but it's still in rural communities all through Canada. So this resolution was mandating FCM to call on federal government to provide long-term funding and resource supports for local governments as they address homelessness, to ensure sustainability of new supportive housing by urging provinces and territories to provide wraparound services, and to create a national strategy to support local efforts to scale up programs such as Rapid Housing Initiative and Reaching Home. So again, giving the staff the authority to go forward and try to get some more action as it relates to homelessness. Again, that one was passed with well over 95%. The next resolution actually garnered quite a bit of discussion and put our entire FCM agenda for the day way out of whack in terms of timing. Everyone had an opinion on this one, and it was a new growth framework for municipalities. So this resolution declared that Canada needs a modernized fiscal framework for municipalities, that FCM should lead the development of a municipal growth framework that links municipal financial capacity to factors such as national population growth and economic growth, and that FCM shall call on the federal government to engage with FCM in the development of that framework with a focus on new sources of municipal revenue. So that had a lot of wordsmithing, basically, from various and sundry parties. And we went down to great copious amount of detail, back up to a high level. Let's give the staff some wiggle room and not make it quite so specific because it was getting kind of silly. Yeah, so basically what that's really in a nutshell getting to is give us a more predictable revenue stream. Okay, and let's have it directly. As you may be aware, the province of Ontario intervenes in federal government transfers So they have another layer of say-so in terms of what actually comes down to the municipalities in Ontario. It's not like that everywhere in Canada. It's not like that in Alberta. It's not like that in Nova Scotia. Federal funding goes directly to those provinces. So, but that's our cross to bear. So anyway, I think it was well worth the resolution and the discussion. We had keynote speakers from Justin Trudeau, the deputy leader of the Conservative Party, Melissa Lantsman, NDP Jagmeet Singh, which Mayor Finch and I had the opportunity to speak with after his presentation, which was great. The rest of them, we weren't that quick to get after them. They were gone. And Green Party leader Elizabeth May also spoke. The workshop sessions, they focused on things like intercommunity transit systems, walkable, sustainable communities, climate adaptation was a big one, and mitigation. Some communities are moving into actual mitigation strategies, building great community spaces, inclusion, and of course, housing. We're all that. Mayor Finch and I also went on a study tour that basically covered the Dundas Dovercourt residential area. It was called Finding the Missing Middle, or Low-Rise Housing in Toronto. They basically, we had a Toronto city planner basically take us to a area where there was an actual 2.5-story duplex. One unit was still a 2.5-story original duplex. The other unit had been further divided into 3 separate units, sort of the basement, main floor, and then I think a 1.5 stories going up. And they also, the same property, created a laneway suite off the alley, which used to be their garage. Okay. And then it encroached a bit into the backyard. So there wasn't much green space left on this property at all. It was mostly totally built up. 4 units on one property, no ability to subdivide the land. So it was just like a 4-unit property. Okay. Forever and a go forward day. The planner did advise us that at one point, this 4-unit project would have cost $100,000 per unit in development fees before they even started construction. So pretty heavy duty with all the pressures from Bill 23 and so forth. Those big upfront application development fees essentially have been waived. They've gone away from them completely. Kind of a recognition that you're spending $400,000 on a project like this before you've done anything. Okay. Also, they're looking at in those same kind of communities, commercial properties, allowing zoning for commercial properties right within the residential neighborhoods to allow promote walkability. So they're looking at what's kind of needed in this neighborhood, and if they feel that it's community need, and a good example is like a laundromat, you know, so that people don't have to drive anywhere, the more that you can walk, because as they intensify infill such as this, there's less and less ability for people to park. You know, it was a parking problem before. Now you have a real parking problem because you don't have enough spaces on that street for 3 additional parking permits, you know, so they need to really open up all of their zoning to allow for mix of use. So supportive housing and also walkability with commercial uses being brought right into the community. So that was kind of interesting too. We also found out that the rents are ridiculously high in Toronto. That, for an example, I don't remember every one of the three very well in terms of what that cost was, but for the Laneway Suite, $5,000 a month. Yeah. So pretty high. What else can I tell you about that? Oh yes, so we did a little shopping around on the trade floor to see what they had to offer, and did have an opportunity to speak with McDonald's Brother Construction, who was involved in a sizable Kingston, Ontario fire hall facility that was 0 rated, funded by the FCM Green Municipal Fund. And also they were able to put this together for a budget of 3.8 million. And I brought a picture which I can pass around to everybody, but it was a pretty sizable looking fire hall for 3.8 million. And the whole idea of this net zero was to obviously save on utilities, aside from, you know, lowering greenhouse gas emissions, but to save on utility costs altogether. So I'll just start that here with, and then what else? Having heard all of that, I trotted over to the FCM booth and wanted to hear what they had to say about that. And so what I did find out is that yes, fire halls are in demand at FCM Green Fund right now, and that they are offering feasibility study grants as well as loans for the actual build. So encouraging us to explore that more. Did have someone from FCM reach out since I came home, offering educational opportunities about what their capabilities are. I've passed that on to Rebecca, our clerk, and so she's going to be taking that away to see what we can do on that front. Also talked with a company by the name of Hen Eats regarding a unique kind of ground grids for pedestrian and street traffic, ones that would allow sort of a more eco-friendly footprint. What kind of caught my eye on that was I was thinking about solutions for Port Blake and accessibility for instead of asphalt paths and so on, that maybe we could do something that was a little greener, but also would be good for wheelchair access, things like that. I'll pass this one around too, and it's looks like that. Maybe. And also with Dashwood being top of mind in terms of playground equipment, and I know there are other parks that we're looking at for playground equipment and so on. I stopped by a playground equipment vendor, and we didn't have a lot of time to chat, but he gave me a little jump drive here that tells all about everything that you could ever want in playground equipment. And so another thing that I'm going to hand over to staff to take a look at. Networking. Yes, lots of networking, lots of people we met all across Canada. We were both very pleased to see Joanne Vanderhaven of Strathroy Caradoc invited to the FCM. She was given an award for all the hard work that she's done for FCM for years. And it was really great to see her and to meet up with people from coast to coast to coast. And that's my FCM reports.
Well done. I don't think I can add much to that, but then networking was exceptional, as she said, coast to coast to coast. And I had many municipality leaders, mayors especially, talk to me about our connection center, our homelessness problem, right? And when I explained what we're doing in South Huron, that was the topic. They wanted to know more and more about that. So it shows pretty clearly that we're doing very well by having the connection center. But as I said, you know, with Andrea Luhausen as the pivot on that, we're very fortunate to have her there. And I'm, you know, we're very fortunate. So they were very interested in knowing more about that, from small municipalities in Nova Scotia to talk to people in British Columbia, Alberta. They had the Alberta night again. It was just talking about various things that we're doing here, and people were seem to be very impressed with how we've handled our housing, our homelessness problem with the Connection Center. So again, kudos to Andrew Luhhouse. And anyways, the rest of the stuff that I could talk about, the rest is already talked about, the housing project that she's talking about, that small laneway suite. That building they were talking about, $4 million for that duplex. That's what it was originally, and it was divided up. So just to buy that, that was the listing price there at the time. So I'm not sure what it actually is going to sell for, but to think that that's what the values are down there is pretty outrageous. And the cost, I believe they were over $4,000 for each other one of the units. So it's very expensive in the Toronto area for sure. But they've got a lot of things on the go down there for sure, and lots of good networking. Anything else from members of council? Deputy, go ahead.
My report's gonna be a lot shorter than that.
Good.
We'll have a full report after the next police services board meeting because we wanted to get together and do it as a board. So I will bring that back after, but it was a great conference. So not a lot of details coming of what's gonna happen. We think maybe August, but nothing in stone for sure. So time will tell. Thank you.
No problem. Any other comments? Councillor Oak.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just want to say I attended the South Huron Hospital Gala on Friday night, and what a wonderful event again, and nice to see it back in South Huron, and tremendous community that we live in here, and just the amount of dollars that were raised between the silent auction and the auction, and they raised over 124,000 in 5 minutes just through the crowd, and it was just amazing night, and the Tim Long and Zach Neal both did a great job on their segment of it, and longtime foundation chair Pat Rourke retired from the hospital foundation, so he was recognized as well. So it was really a great evening.
Yes, and I think I was also there too. It was an excellent evening. Again, a perfect example when the community works together, they can achieve great things. So any other comments at this point? Okay, as far as myself, I can say that I met with the medical students on the 31st of May with the recruitment committee and with our CEO, Ms. Sue Collison, and that went over very well over at Eddington. So great opportunity to network with them and show them what we can offer here in South Huron, hoping we can get more people to take up occupations as medical doctors or whatever it may be. Nurses, we don't care. We're just more than happy to have them here. So that was a very, very good event put on by those folks. And the Gaia is here at the Trivet Church. So if you haven't seen it yet, I encourage you to go see it. It's pretty amazing to watch, and it's kind of awe-inspiring, I would say is the best way to describe it. So, and there's been other things I've been involved with too in the last couple of weeks, but those are the highlights. And I don't think I have anything else. Ms. Sue Collison, can you think of anything else? I don't think so. No, I know it's been a busy couple of weeks. FCM things like 3 weeks ago now. Go ahead.
Just one last thing, the Exeter 150 committee is being very active, and they've got a number of events that are a couple larger events where there's evenings planned. So look on their Heritage Foundation or the Facebook pages or social media, because there's tickets available for those events. So I expect they'll be in hot demand. So yeah, that's coming up sooner than you think.
That's for sure. Anything else? Okay, not seeing any. Okay, great. We can move on to communications then. Ms. Collison, do you want to read out the numbers, please?
Okay. 14.1. 14.2.
Oh.
Yep.
14.3. 14.4.
Oh.
14.5. 14.6.
Oh.
14.7. 14.8. 14.9. 14.10. 14.11.
Okay, 14.1, Council Oaks, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I looked at the delegation form that was attached to the link there and it's suggesting that we could have up to 3 delegation requests. I think I'm just throwing out some ideas of potential delegations would be one on the fire, the whole fire side of things. Training costs are a major for communities nowadays. And as Councillor Vaughn mentioned on fire halls, we've got a fire committee that's looking at different options. And so just wondering if there'd be that'd be with the Solicitor General, I believe. So that would be one that I'm suggesting. One maybe with the Minister of Health on healthcare jointly, again, like we did last year, just to keep in the radar. There's some work going on and being discussed tonight later on communication on family health team and some other ideas. So I think that would be a good one. And then one on maybe sports, culture, tourism, just thanking them for our Trillium grant and just reminding them who we are and what projects maybe down the road we want to explore as well. So and if those ones don't fly, I was thinking one with OMAF or OMAFRA and Lisa. Just I know they've backed off of the severance bandwagon, but we got to remind them of how important our agricultural land is here and keep that front and center, and just to see get in front of Lisa as a council as well. So those are my thoughts on delegations.
Okay, any other comments? I was wondering about Minister Affairs and Housing. I know Minister Clark had reached out to me a while ago, wanting to further discuss the ARL limits, and I'm not sure if we could do it maybe there or maybe the next Roma in 2024. Mr. Sulukhos, what's your thoughts?
We actually did a preliminary review on the ARL, and we thought maybe that might work better with the debt management policy discussion, to have that maybe at that time.
Okay. Any other comments? So, Councillor Neave.
No, I like the suggestions that Councillor Oak had made, and I would maybe suggest the first 3 if OMAFRA, unless the rest of council would like to meet with OMAFRA.
Okay, any other comments from members of council? So, okay, so Solicitor General, and then Minister of Health, of course, and then your third one, sports.
Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport.
Okay, is everyone satisfied with that? Do we need resolutions, Madam Clerk?
I would take a resolution for sure.
Okay, so you'll move that, Councillor Oak. Do you want to prepare that so we know exactly what we have before we vote on it?
Okay, the South Huron Council submit an AMO delegation request to the Solicitor General, Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport, and the Minister of Health.
So move, Councillor Oak. Seconded by Councillor Neebe. Any further discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that carries a 7. Thank you. 14.2, Councillor Neebe.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Finch. I don't know if Don is still on the line. We received this correspondence from Enbridge about the third-party locate charges, and I was just wanting to get his feedback on that. correspondence.
Mr. Giverson, welcome back.
Yes, Mayor Finch. There is still work to do with the Enbridge Gas charging for locate issue. And there has been some recent activity from the province. So the the province has put a pause on legislation that was implementing penalties for delays or late locates. So the main underlying reason for Enbridge Gas requesting to charge for the locates has now been paused for a year while the province consults with the industry. Another development is the Ontario One Call has also lobbying the provincial government to prohibit members of Ontario One Call from charging for locates. So there's some progress being made on that front, but there's still work to be done with the whole locate situation with Enbridge Gas.
Okay. Any follow-up, Councilor?
No, I think based on what you've said, it's kind of a wait and see, and I'd just be concerned about if that did go through, the financial implications on any of the work that we do in the future because of those locates, right? So that's I guess just wait and see and be vigilant.
Great. Mr. Giverson, any follow-up at all?
That's definitely a good approach. There's been a lot of pushback in the province. Most municipalities are not very pleased to see Enbridge Gas, who is that we're hosting in our right of way, now wanting to charge municipalities for locating their utility. So there's a lot of associations that are lobbying, and the province appears to be listening. So that's good news for all municipalities that there's progress being made on this particular issue.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Giverson. Anything further from members of council on that item? Okay, thank you. 14.4, we'll pull that one. Ms. Masuda-Carlson, can you give an update on that, please?
This is just a request that we received from Mr. True, requesting a letter of support. One thing I would note though is if council does decide to proceed with it, we would update the wording from Exeter to South Huron.
Okay, so we'll need a resolution on that you're looking for.
Yes.
Do we have a mover for that? Councillor Oak, second by Councillor Neeb. Any discussion? Well, a question, all in favor? That carries with 7. Thank you. 14.5, Deputy, go ahead.
Yeah, I pulled this, I'm just wondering, do we have any criteria for the tax relief? Or can staff bring some information back on that just to see where that goes and what happens with it? So I don't need a motion for a staff report, or can we just.
Ms. Masuda-Carlson?
Yes, if we could have we'll just put in here a resolution for a direction for a staff report to bring back if there's any mechanism for property tax relief. Is there any other information on that as well, or?
I think that's it.
Okay.
So moved by Deputy Mayor. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Denemy. Any discussion on that? Ms. Councillor Neeb? Sorry, Councillor Oak, do you have a question?
Yeah, I guess I think hopefully they would meet with staff as well. Because I think, you know, in the past, I don't imagine what our property taxes are on there. But in light of their deficits the last 3 years, the property taxes are just a minuscule compared to the deficit. So I'm just thinking that there's a larger issue that needs to be looked at as well.
Did you want to read that resolution, Ms. Masuda-Carlson?
That South Huron Council directs staff to bring back a report outlining what mechanisms, if any, for tax relief. And we could add, if Deputy Mayor and Councillor Denomey are agreeable, that staff meet with the Exeter Curling Club to discuss maybe the situation further with options.
Deputy,
Yes, I would agree with that.
Councillor Denomey?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Thank you. So moved, seconded. Any further discussion? Councillor Vaughn, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I hear what the request is and what the motion is, and that potentially staff should be meeting with the Exeter Curling Club to find out what, if anything, we can do. And I think I have a kind of different read on the whole subject. I'm wondering why we would be doing that for a private company that has set themselves up from a financial and a legal perspective to be a private share entity. I think everybody got hit hard with COVID and people are struggling from a financial perspective. I don't know that from a where our staff are most effective perspective, they should be involved in helping a private entity in sort of sorting through their ownership structure or their financial structure or their options that are available to them in terms of if they sell land, if they sell their ongoing entity, what must by their very charter of existence have to go back to the actual shareholders. I think we're moving into territory that I just don't see where that's going for us as a municipality. I don't see that as a staff function. I think that this curling club should basically be having a chat with their accountants and their shareholders and their lawyers to find out what are the options we have as a company, a private company, to work our way through our financial challenges. So I share that as I would not be supporting the motion as written.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we have a mover and a seconder. It's on the floor. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the question all in favor. And that carries with 6. Thank you. Sorry, move on to 14.6, Councillor Oak. Did you ask for that?
Yeah, thank you. I guess I'm wondering about a staff report to come back and to give us some options here. I know my memory's a bit cloudy back in the pre-COVID days, but I believe we have looked at cash in lieu of a letter of credit with another developer at a time, and just wondering about options.
Ms. Pasula-Collison, comments?
That it did happen. There was a waiver. We did that once. Council approved that once. Since then, the policy has mostly been letter of credit. However, a report could be brought back to bring back options as far as whether cash in lieu, as well as letter of credit and other options that are possible.
You'll need a resolution on that also,
Yes, that
Councillor Oak. And do you want to read that resolution before I go to a seconder, please?
now there is another part to this request as well. So I don't know if there's anything further in the report that council may want. I believe that there was a request for development costs as well.
Councillor Oak. Microphone.
Sorry, I think it should be handled in 2 different resolutions, if at all.
The council direct a staff report back to bring back options on financing, letter of credit, cash in lieu, and other options.
Counselor Oak, you satisfied with that? So moved, seconded by Counselor Denby. Discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carries with 7. Thank you. Ms. Masul Collison. Further resolution?
I'm not sure if there is a resolution. All that there was a request for development fees as well as part of this correspondence.
Okay, so we're good to move on then. Okay, very well. 14.7, Counselor Vaughn.
Yes, okay, so I wanted to briefly speak to this. Because it's relating to Port Blake and it's relating to the area that I'm ward counselor for. So it's nice to see a growing interest in the sport of pickleball and that out in the sort of Grand Bend area, there's interest in expanding what our recreational capabilities are. I'm reflecting back to our priority setting, and in our priority setting, we spoke quite a bit about recreation being part of our priorities. But we also agreed to talk about finishing projects that we have started. And Port Blake has been on the sort of agenda for a number of years, and I'd like to see it actually finish what we started before we start moving on to yet another recreational capability there. So I think what should happen with this request is that we should put it in our bucket of things to consider for recreation going forward. It took us a long time to make a decision about what we would do with the tennis courts here in Exeter, as it did with our recreational facilities. I know there are some parts of recreation that different counselors have an interest in pursuing. And so I think it really should form a part of our overall prioritization on where we might best apply for grants, spend taxpayer dollars, and look at it as a holistic as opposed to a one-off type of request.
Okay, any comments, questions for Counselor Vaughn? Do you want anything further on that then? No? Okay, very well. If there's nothing further, we've gone, don't have anything else to be pulled here, so recommendation, Ms. Masul Collison.
Okay, that South Huron Council received communication items not otherwise dealt with.
And a mover, Deputy Mayor, seconded by Counselor Neeb. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carries with 7. Thank you. We're going to close session now, and Ms. Masul Collison, need to read the recommendation, please.
The South Huron Council proceed in closed session at 7:32 PM pursuant to section 239B of the Municipal Act to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual municipal or local board employee, that's municipal employees, and that David Woodward, municipal solicitor, remain in attendance. Now pursuant to section 2284 of the Municipal Act, the clerk may delegate her authority to the municipal solicitor for the purposes of the closed council meeting.
Moved by Counselor Neeb, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. Thank you. And we're back into open session again. 8:13 we reported out. I turn to Mr. Woodward at 8:19 now to follow up from our closed session, please.
Yes, through you, your worship. Thank you. Out of closed session, the following recommended motions for consideration as a package. Firstly, that South Huron Council received the report from the CAO Performance Review Committee. Secondly, that the position of Chief Administration Officer, Municipality of South Huron be offered to Rebecca Messiah Cullison. That remuneration for the 2023 calendar year be set at $170,000 per annum on the basis of a 40-hour work week. That vacation leave is set at 5 weeks per calendar year plus 40 hours manager and lieu time. That an upside limit amount of $10,000 be established for the purpose of professional development in executive level strategic courses. That the current benefit package be made available, currently available to South Huron employees, will be made available to Rebecca Messiah Cullison in her capacity as Chief Administration Officer. That council authorizes municipal solicitor Dave Woodward to prepare a draft offer letter based on the resolutions contained herein for the review and eventual signature of Mayor George Finch. That Rebecca Messiah Cullison is the municipality of South Huron's Chief Administrative Officer upon her acceptance of this offer. And that in accordance with its terms of reference dated June 3rd, 2013, the CAO Performance Review Committee, consisting of Mayor Finch, Councillors Oak and Vaughn, shall continue to meet twice annually or as needed with the CAO to review and confirm the goals and objectives and performance expectations and to provide feedback, support, and formal evaluation of the performance of the CAO to council.
Mover, please. Councillor Vaughn, seconded by Councillor Dietrich. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Woodward, for your time on this. Thank you very much. Good. Thank you, sir. Congratulations, Ms. Masuka Carlson, CAO. You didn't think you were gonna get away with just that, huh? Yep, you know. Okay. Well, that's a good. We'll go to item number 17, bylaws. I turn to our CAO. Ms. Masuka Carlson, please.
The South Huron Council gives first, second, third, and final reading to bylaw to name members to the Exeter Business Association Board of Management and set 2023 tax rates for properties in the Exeter Business Improvement Area, and that's bylaw 26/2023.
And a mover, please. Councillor Denemy, seconded by Councillor Vaughn. Discussion? Call the question, all in favor? And that carries with 7. Thank you. 17.2.
The South Huron Council give first, second, third, and final reading to bylaw 27/23, being a bylaw to appoint Julia Warwick as treasurer for the municipality of South Huron. And Julia's in here today with us.
And we have Julia. And do we have a mover, please? Councillor Denemy, second by Deputy Mayor. Is there any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? And that carries 7. Welcome again, Julia. Good to have you. Okay, confirming bylaw.
The South Huron Council gives first, second, third, and final reading to bylaw 28/2023, being a bylaw to confirm matters addressed at the June 5th, 2023 public and regular council meetings.
And a mover, please. Councillor Neeb, seconded by Councillor Oak. Any discussion? I call the question, all in favor, and that carries a 7. Thank you very much. And item 19.
The South Huron Council hereby adjourn at 8:24 PM to meet again on June 19th, 2023 at 6 PM or at the call of the chair.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councillor Neep. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? That carries with 7.